Coming up on Esoteric Atlanta.
Yeah, and I mean the NYPD totally mishandled the case. I mean they lost evidence, they lost her clothes. Use astrology to chart out their crimes. Like one example I can think of off the top of my head is Gary Evans. He was a really prolific burglar, and he was astrologically charting out his burglaries.
Humans have always been drawn to the darkness, not because we admire it, but because somewhere deep inside we need to understand the part of ourselves that could be capable of the unthinkable. It's the same instinct that made ancient audiences whisper through the corridors of Greek tragedy, the same heartbeat that makes Shakespeare write lines steeped in spiraling ambition and blood. Take Macbeth, a man who begins as a soldier, a patriot, and ends as an unaliver, unraveling beneath the weight of his own choices. Shakespeare wasn't just writing about kings and witches. He was writing about that thin membrane between desire and destruction, a membrane every one of us carries. True crime exists in that membrane. It's our modern version of staring at the prophecy-laden dagger hovering in the air and asking, could this be me? Or worse, could this be someone I love? We pretend to study crime to feel safer, but the truth is far stranger. We study crime because we recognize a flicker of ourselves in every tragedy, every betrayal, every moment where a person crosses a line they can never uncross. And that's where Oscar Wilde enters the room. In the picture of Dorian Gray, the crime is not committed with a weapon. It's committed with the soul, through denial, vanity, and the slow seduction of darkness that feels at first like freedom. Dorian's portrait is the forensic evidence of a conscience rotting in real time. The painting is every criminal investigation ever conducted, a record of what society refuses to see on the surface. True crime, Macbeth, Dorian Gray, they all reflect the same truth. Human beings are not haunted by monsters, but by parts of themselves that hunger, fear, covet, and rationalize. The part that whispers, no one will ever know. The part that answers back, but you will. And so we watch, we read, we research, we obsess, not to revel in the gruesome, but to hold a candle up to our own shadows, to understand how an ordinary life can twist into something tragic, how a choice becomes a chain of consequences, and how even the most respectable face can hide a portrait we pray no one will ever uncover. Today on Esoteric Atlanta, we're talking to Criminal Justice Chris. Criminal Justice Chris is a researcher, writer, and the person who reads the case files most people are afraid to touch. Today, we're going to dissect the psychology, the power, the pathology, and the stories that shape the world we pretend is orderly. So if you're ready to explore the shadows with clarity and without flinching, you're in the right place. Let the show begin. And before we get into the show today, just a very quick thank you to all of our patrons and our producers and our supporters over on Substack here for Esoteric Atlanta. We are solely a grassroots brand. We don't make any money off of the work we do here except for by our lovely Patreons, producers, Substack supporters, and sponsors. So we thank you guys so much for everything you do to help support our work. If you would like to join our Patreon, our producer, or Substack community, there is a link down in the description box below. Today we're sitting down with someone who has been rattling the true crime world with research, receipts, and a level of intellectual depth you normally don't see online. You know her as Criminal Justice Chris, the writer whose Medium posts cut straight through the silence, corruption, and the stories we think we know. Now, today, before we get into it with Chris, just a little bit of a heads up. I am going to be turning my camera off because Chris keeps her camera off for obvious reasons. She keeps her identity pretty much locked down, again, for obvious reasons. And we have gotten notes when we have RockerMike with us or other people with us who keep their cameras on. It works pretty well. But when it's just Chris and me, we have gotten notes from you guys that it's weird for you guys to see me on camera and her not. So getting into this episode, I am going to be turning my camera off. Hopefully that will help your viewing pleasure. All right, you guys, sit back and I hope you enjoy this incredible episode with Criminal Justice Chris. Hey Atlanta, if you've been looking for the perfect way to give back this holiday season and get a seriously empowering workout, I've got something special for you. On Sunday, December 21st, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Sacred Garden Yoga, located near Marietta's historic square, is hosting a 90-minute Toys for Tots donation yoga fusion class. And trust me, this is one of it you don't want to miss. Picture this: warm holiday lights, the smell of fresh pine, upbeat music, your community moving together, all inside one of Greater Atlanta's most beloved yoga studios. And every squat, pulse, and plie you do helps bring joy to a child who might not otherwise receive a gift this year. Here's how it works. Instead of paying a drop-in fee, all we ask is that you bring one new unwrapped toy to donate to Toys for Tots. That's it. Your gift becomes your ticket. And if you're feeling extra generous, bring 2, bring 5, bring whatever's on your heart. Every single toy goes directly to a child in need in our local community. Bar lovers, this is your moment. Yoga lovers, this is your moment. Beginners, this is your moment. Anyone who wants to move, sweat, give back, and feel amazing, this is your moment. I personally will lead you through a fun, fiery, power-packed 90-minute yoga bar fusion class that blends strength, sculpting, balance, and mobility, all set to holiday-themed playlists that will boost your energy and your spirit. No dance background is needed. No yoga background is needed. Just bring yourself a mat and a toy to donate. And let's be honest, December can be a lot. Stressful, busy, emotional. Taking 90 minutes to reconnect with your body while also helping a child feel loved this season, that's a holiday win-win. So join us at Sacred Garden Yoga in Marietta, the Greater Atlanta area, on Sunday, December 21st, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Admission again is one new unwrapped toy for Toys for Tots. Spaces are limited. This class will probably fill up, so grab your spot, grab a toy, and let's make some holiday magic together. Sacred Garden. Move with purpose, give with heart. See you December 21st. All right, you guys. So this feels so weird for me, Chris, because I usually have the camera on. But as I said in the opening, guys, we've got your messages. When it's just Chris and me, we know that it's weird to have one video. You guys get a little optically challenged, and I totally get that. When we have more people on screen, it's easier. But just to help you guys with the optics, we'll keep my camera off as well, because as you guys know, Chris has an incredible blog over on Medium. I'm going to show you guys. I follow her even though I'm signed out right now, but Chris has an incredible blog over on Medium. You guys, I'm going to lock that down below so that you can follow her if you want. I totally suggest you do. You guys know who Chris is, but there's a reason why, Chris, you don't show your face, and because you do cover a lot of very, we'll say, interesting cases in the world, and because of what you do, it's important for you to keep your identity a little bit more obscure. And so we totally respect that here on this channel. And we're so proud to have you here today, Chris. We're going to get to know you a little bit better today. My people here, my friends here in the Esoteric Atlantic community globally, we love a good researcher who's going to try to get to the bottom of what's going on in the world. And so I'm so excited to have you here, Chris, today, just to talk about you and your work. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right. So I pre-sent Chris these questions because some of them are a little spicy. And obviously, Chris, you only answer how much you want to answer. I never want anybody to feel uncomfortable or feel like that they can't, if there is something you feel like you can't say, then that's totally fine. And we can go around, no big deal. And I think my audience understands that. So my first question to you, Chris, is how in the world did you get into blogging? How did this start for you? And why criminal justice? Why was that the topic that you wanted to blog about?
I actually started blogging. The first blog I did was on the Savino case. David Berkowitz, I've been in contact with him since July of 2022. The Savino case broke in June of 2024. He needed help with it. I started doing some research to try to demonstrate that he was not responsible because he's denied doing it across the board for since June of 2024. So that's the main reason why I started blogging. And in November of 2024, that was my first article. It wasn't really my long-term goal to be blogging, but now I'm blogging because of the Savino case.
And you guys, I'm going to tag those videos down below because that's a whole other, a part of the Son of Sam. For those who are not familiar, this was a new victim, quote unquote. I say that loosely, that the powers that be put into the Son of Sam case, that I myself do not believe she is a victim. I think you don't either. David Berkowitz has denied it himself. That's a whole can of worms, which I will absolutely tag those videos down below, which Chris, you've joined us for those videos.
Yeah. Well, I just want to clarify. I do think she's a victim. I don't think she's his victim.
Exactly.
Just to clarify, so people don't jump all over us and say, "Roar, she's a victim." She is she is a victim, but I do not believe that she's David Berkowitz's victim.
And I believe personally, I think we've talked about this, Chris, that she's a victim of organized crime, of the mafia.
Yeah, I think she's been victimized multiple times. And I don't find her statements to be particularly reliable.
No. Two things can be true. Two things can always be true. She absolutely is a victim of some crime, but I don't think that she's a reliable narrator. When it comes to whether she's aware that she's not a reliable narrator or not, or whether she's covering for something, I don't know. But two things can definitely be true. Well, that's quite amazing, Chris, that you started in 2024. You've really hit the ground running with this. It almost you seem like you've been doing this forever because you're so professional in the way you write and the way that you're able to do research. You and I talk offline a lot as well. And I'm always impressed by your willingness to do what journalists should be doing, which we're going to get a little bit more into. You're willing to find people you need to find and to ask the hard questions just to get to the truth. And I guess you're not owned by anybody, are you? So maybe your dog.
Well, you said I hit the ground running. I mean, it was challenging for me. If you look at my earlier blogs, they tend to be longer. They tend to be a little bit wordier. They tend to be a little bit pedantic. It's something that I struggle with because I've taken so many college classes, getting out of the mode of writing, academically. Yes. Yeah. And some people enjoy that writing style, but most people, that's not how you write blogs. So I had to learn how to write a little bit differently. And that includes, writing what I want to write. And then I was already being accused of it through through some podcasters, which wasn't the case. We're like, oh, you're using artificial intelligence. It's like, no, I'm not using artificial intelligence. I have an undergraduate in English.
Yeah, same.
And it's like after the accusations went on for so long, it's like it was just to be spiteful, and it was on the Wendy Savino case. Obviously, I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna start checking out ChatGPT and see if I'm able to work with it better. And I find, my personal opinion is, if you write something and you send it through ChatGPT, you and I were discussing this earlier, it'll act as your editor. You can act it as its editor. It's like it's reciprocity with artificial intelligence, and it will make your language more neutral. It makes some of your arguments more coherent, and I think it makes it more, it helps with clarity. That's just my opinion. And if you don't use artificial intelligence, it's going to become smarter than us, and we're going to lose our competitive edge. And you have to stay on top of it, and you have to work with it, and you have to keep yourself educated.
I know, I was telling you before we started, I agree with you 100%. I've been using ChatGPT as like my assistant and my editor, and I will filter through, like when I do my research into a topic, I'll take all of my research and like plug it into ChatGPT. And I have this problem I was telling you because of PTSD, where I tend to over-explain.
Yes.
And so ChatGPT has helped me like as an editor to like whittle down my points that I'm trying to make without being overly loquacious. And so I was telling you too, the danger I think people get into with ChatGPT is when they're allowing ChatGPT to dominate a subject that they haven't researched themselves, because
you're correct.
Where ChatGPT, because ChatGPT will make mistakes. And so whenever I've used it, I use it on stuff that I am thoroughly researched in, so I can see where the mistakes are. And so, yeah, for people who just use ChatGPT without actually knowing anything about the subject, that's dumb in my opinion, because you're going to get overtaken by something that's artificial. But if you already know what you want to do with the subject that you've researched and you plug it into ChatGPT, it can help you organize your thoughts. And that's what I've really found with I was telling you, it helped me organize my thoughts for the questions that I wanted to ask you, to make sure that I got out of this episode what I think our audience wants to know. And because I'm so familiar with your blogs, I could read the questions and see which ones resonated and which ones didn't. And
well, to me, not to interrupt you, it's no different than like the advent of the internet and how people really dug in and dug their feet in and just didn't want to use it and wanted to, continue to go to the library. And you just have to say, you know what, the system's evolved, and it's going to cut down our work time, and you're just going to have to learn to live with it. And if you don't work with those type of technology inventions, then you're going to relegate yourself into nothingness.
It is so funny. I'm a generation. I was born in 1983, so I'm this like sub generation. We're called Zennials. Because we're not really Gen X, but we're also not really millennials. So it's that 4-year gap. We're called Zennials. And we're kind of the forgotten generation, because my first year of college, my professors did not trust the internet. We were not allowed to take any references from the internet. The internet was very new. There was no Facebook yet. There was no, and so we still had to go to the library and use the Dewey Decimal System to find our research. And then all of a sudden, after school, after college, you get out in the world, and now it's acceptable. Like, I could not do a bibliography from the internet now. I could only do one with a textbook. And so I've had to learn. So I laughed when you said that, because I was like, yeah, 1980 to 1984 babies, like we experienced that hardcore, because we came of age at the time when the internet was brand new, and a lot of our professors didn't trust it. And so we've had to play catch up. Like, other millennials learned it. And so I agree with you. I've already had that issue once in my life of having to play catch up. And I agree. And if you are able, and again, I'm going to reiterate for people who are resistant to ChatGPT, if you take a subject that you've already researched, you're not letting ChatGPT do the research for you. You are researching yourself and then plugging you're still in control of what's coming out of your mouth or what's in your writings, or because it's just
Yeah.
organizing it for you. So
It's only as smart as the person that's working behind it and entering commands and doing the editing and asking questions.
absolutely.
My personal opinion, I think it's best for outlines, and it's
Yep.
best for asking questions, like research questions and doing deep dives. Like I've been able to find, like police manuals that are buried on the internet and obscure case law. And it's great for that kind of stuff. It's better than Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a good place to start researching, to read and then look down at the citations and then go from there. But ChatGPT is way better than Wikipedia. I'll say it all day long.
And Wikipedia, that's one thing people have to understand about Wikipedia too, because you can edit Wikipedia. You have to look at the citations and click on those links. Because just like ChatGPT, there can be inaccuracy in Wikipedia, but if you follow the links, you can find the correct information. It's just how you work it. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, one thing that this is going to be interesting too, because I know with the Son of Sam case, there's a lot of occultism, and you and I have spoken about other cases where there's obvious, like the Zodiac case, the Atlanta child case here. There's all these other cases now where people, Charles Manson, obviously, which is connected to Son of Sam. A lot of people believe, we'll say allegedly for entertainment, educational purposes only, as we have to say here on YouTube. But my question to you is, when you started blogging with these cases, have you been surprised by how much occultism plays into crime?
I have. I'll be honest. I was not very familiar with occultism prior to my contact with David Berkowitz. I know people are probably going to be surprised about that. I was familiar with tarot, because I did a paper in college on the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock within the English program. And if you read some of Eliot's earlier poems, you'll see that he uses tarot a lot.
Yeah. There's also there's kind of some references into the Son of Sam case too.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the only reason why I was even familiar with tarot is I bought several books. My husband bought me a pack of cards, and he was like, well, if you're going to do this, you're going to need to get familiar with these. And I tore the cards apart, like breaking down the symbolism and the imagery. And so, yeah, I'm very familiar with tarot, but other aspects of the occult, no, I'm not familiar with. I wasn't really familiar with it. And from tarot cards, I look at them more from an archetypal standpoint. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I feel like understanding occultism comes fairly naturally to me for whatever reason. I don't really understand why. But and I'm not particularly fond of it. But I've been very surprised that you'll start to see it popping up in certain crimes.
And we've talked about that before in other episodes about police officers being trained more in the occult to understand what's actually happening. And when I started realizing, Chris, that there was more occultism in these crimes than previously expected, I think we grow up and we hear about these crazy crimes like Son of Sam or Charles Manson, all these things, and we think these are just like lunatics. But, and you could argue that it still is kind of wild, but there's actually a deeper, when you start to understand the occultism, it's not just some person who went bananas. There's actually a deeper ritual at play here. And for me, that kind of in a weird way gave me more peace, because it was like, oh, people just aren't going cuckoo and doing this stuff. Like there's a deeper, and of course we get into like MK Ultra, we get into like these mind control techniques, all this other stuff that is a whole other podcast. But it started to give more meaning to why people do what they do, even though it's disgusting. And I personally don't like that dark side of life. But we are fascinated by it as people. That's why we do what we do. We're fascinated by the dark, these people who play in the darkness. But it does give more understand. I hope I'm making myself clear. Understanding as to why things like Son of Sam happen, or Charles Manson happen, or the Zodiac happen. I'm sure of it. I haven't even ventured into like the Night Stalker, but I'm sure that if somebody did look into them, you'd still find weird occultism at play.
Well, you'll also find that if you go into like the Department of Corrections, and
Yeah.
if you're ever in a correctional facility, that the people who are incarcerated have a higher rate of participating in occultism.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it gives them control over their environment. Whether it's real or psychological. It can get a little dark, and it also pops up in literature where it specifically says that there's a higher rate of occultism with people that commit crimes and who are incarcerated than the regular population. That's not to lump them all together and say, if you practice occultism that you're a criminal, but there is more of a chance for it to occur.
Right. You know what I think it is, Chris? Because occult just means secret. It just means something that's not, it's a secret teaching. And there is occultism that's, going to see a tarot card reader, all that kind of stuff that's harmless. You're just, that's in the light. It's not, you're not hurting anybody else. It's your own. But I think because it is so secret, and I say this with all due respect to everybody, human beings, because we've all gone through dark periods of our lives where we're in depression and stuff. And I think that people get kind of are in vulnerable places, maybe when they turn to occultism, the dark side of occultism, that is. Typically, I play with tarot cards too. You and I've looked at each other's tarot cards before. And I'll pull for myself every now and again. But times that I've gone to a tarot card reader in the past have been times when I was uncertain about something.
Yeah.
And I wasn't hurting anybody. I just had questions about my own life. I can imagine, though, I'm thinking specifically about someone like David Berkowitz. And in my opinion, when he got caught up with the cult in Untermeyer Park, he was at a very vulnerable place in his life. And I think when we're that vulnerable, sometimes we end up getting involved in things that if we weren't vulnerable, we wouldn't have never gotten involved in. And that's something I think every single person needs to be aware of. It's like people who say, oh, I would never join a cult. Well, yeah, I think everybody can get sucked into a cult when you're vulnerable. And we all have times in our life when we're feeling vulnerable, when we don't know where life is taking us, when we're depressed and we're looking for answers. And being educated on this stuff is the only buffer between falling for something like a Meyer Park,
He did get into occultism in high school, and I think some of it might have been, some. I think it's hard. It's kind of hard to explain to some people. I believe his stepsister got him into tarot cards.
Interesting.
And the high school that he went to, Christopher Columbus High School, was very steeped in occultism.
Yep.
And he had lost his mother, obviously, and I think that people deal with trauma differently as well as loss. And he's also highly intelligent.
Yeah.
And I think he's a curious person. And I think with some people that the occult is going to appeal, for psychological reasons. It's going to appeal for just for curiosity as well.
Yeah. I read the book Dead Names. Our mutual friend RockerMike had recommended it to me, and it's written under a pseudonym, a fake name, Simon. And I found it so fascinating. I've actually lent my copy out to a friend. It was so unbelievably fascinating because obviously the person who wrote the book, we have our speculation of who that was, but we don't know for sure. This person obviously knew a lot about ancient occultism as well, not just modern day occultism, but really understood like the lineages of these different occultic practices. And one thing I remember in the book, and I can't remember exactly what was going on, but somebody in the book had asked the guy who was writing the book about his experiences to summon a demon. And he put his foot down and said, absolutely not. And he also put his foot down with blood rituals as well. And I love that was in that book, that he actually specified that, because it's about the Necronomicon, which is considered one of the most heinous books of all time. I've covered it here on my channel. But the fact that this guy who is so steeped in occultism actually like had a boundary and was like, I will not summon a demon for you and I will not do blood magic like that. You don't know what you're getting into. And just to have that understanding. And I think sometimes when we're educating ourselves to understand like where the boundaries are and what this is and what this really is and what it really is not, helps us make better decisions when we are in those times of vulnerability. And a lot of people tell me, Chris, and I don't know, maybe you've had this experience as well, where I talk about what I've learned in these Luciferian occultic practices and what they do, in these practices, some really heinous stuff, and the person will respond and be like, well, I don't believe in that stuff. And I'm always gobsmacked when I hear that, because I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter if you believe it or not. They do believe it.
That's correct.
Doing stuff that hurts other people. It doesn't matter if you believe it's all hogwash or not. And sometimes that power of belief, I think, is what creates the magic. And I just, and maybe for most people, saying something like that is their own protection to accept that, like, why did Epstein Island there's a temple on Epstein Island? Why? It's not, there's something deeper going on here. And it's hard to look at and it's hard to face that dark side of society. But I think the more we understand the dark side of society, the more protected we are. And the more we can protect our children and from getting involved or being victim to these groups. But with that being said, Chris, something interesting about you that our audience probably doesn't know is that you grew up a Christian Scientist. And I wanted to know if your background with the Christian Scientist community, if you feel like that maybe helped you understand occultism, like what are your thoughts around that? And will you tell our audience
I feel like I look at Christian Science a little bit different since I have been reading up on occultism in the last 3 years or so. I saw some of it before. I will be frank. I left the church whenever I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. I think whatever an adult chooses to do is fine. Just to clarify with your audience, Christian Science is not Scientology.
Right.
The religion was founded by Mary Baker Eddy. They believe in radicalized reliance on prayer and Jesus's teachings. But not all of them do this, but most of them will say, no, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm only going to rely on prayer, and I will call a Christian Science practitioner. I think whatever an adult does with their life is absolutely 100% okay. You're in control of that. But whenever you involve children, I think children cannot make a decision for themselves. They shouldn't be, parents in some cases shouldn't be allowed to make the decision depending on the severity of the medical condition. I mean, even in the dogma, both parents are supposed to consent. Like Mary Baker Eddy isn't so rigid that she says, okay, you can't take your kids to the doctor. She'll say, if one parent doesn't consent, then take the kid to the doctor. Some do not abide by that, and they just are way too radical. And that, unfortunately, that's what has occurred with some members on my mom's side of the family, including my mother.
So this Christian Scientists are basically like, they really believe in more of a faith healing.
Yeah, and I do think that there is a sort of occult aspect to it. Like if people read up on Mary Baker Eddy, it has been hypothesized, and I tend to believe it's true, that she heavily studied witchcraft and the occult before she discovered the religion and wrote Science and Health. And if you read her teachings, it seems like she is trying to counteract witchcraft, while at the same time, it's odd. Like if most Christian Scientists, if you talk to them, they'll tell you that they don't believe in the existence of Satan, that Satan's an illusion, which I don't agree with that. It's almost like a kid that acts up and then the parents just say, oh, we'll just ignore it and the behavior is going to go away. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
one thing that people probably don't know about Christian Science is that they believe in malpractice, or mental malpractice, where whether intentional or not intentional, that people can like wish ill of you, and then it manifests
Like black magic.
onto you for, yes, like health, like black magic. And
Yeah,
that's where I think a lot of Christian scientists don't understand. It's like that's black magic or witchcraft, and they'll say, oh no, that's not what it, yes it is, that's
yes, it is.
exactly what it
That's
is.
well, prayers or spells. I mean, that's basically the same thing. Is
Yeah.
spells might involve a little bit more herbs and stuff, but that's basically what's happening. It's basically a spell. And so when you're that's the evil eye, right? That's when you're thinking all these bad thoughts about somebody, it can be used, and that's energy. Thought is energy. And so absolutely that can be a form. And I don't want to make our audience feel guilty. We're all human. We've all had
Oh,
bad thoughts about people before. Like that's nothing to be ashamed of. We all do it. But just understanding the severity, and if you really, it's like a voodoo doll, right? If you really focus that bad intent on somebody, what's the difference between that and black magic?
yeah. I mean, for people who are interested, I would absolutely recommend, reading about the religion or picking up a biography on Mary Baker Eddy. I think most people would think it's a very understudied religion. A lot of people are not familiar with it. The mother church is in Boston, and it was discovered on American soil, and it was really popular for a really long time. And it's because of the abysmal medical care in the
Yeah.
United States, and all other different types of factors, that were going on in the late 1800s and early 1900s. I mean, if people follow the medical profession and what was going on back then. I mean, they were leeching people.
Yeah.
Um,
When did bloodletting stop? When was that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And I think
I'm
actually, because I was telling you off camera, and my audience, if you've been around, for a long, Bryce is my mother's maiden name. And so you can actually look all this up. The Bryces of South Carolina. My mom's family, they've been doctors for many, many, many generations. And one of my aunts has an actual letter, to bloodlet. That
mhm.
was one of my great great whatever grandfathers. She actually still has it from like the 1800s. So I think I can look that up. But I think that they were, if my aunt still has one that's been passed down from like the 1800s, and they were probably doing bloodletting well into probably the 19th century, I would guess. And so
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. And I can see, honestly, Chris, I can see how that, even today there is a lot of struggle in the medical industry with different businesses. I have to be careful with my words, but different will say, healing, quote unquote, healing businesses getting involved that starts with a P.
Yes.
And I can see how that would become appealing to certain people. Well, if there's, I personally am somebody that will definitely try to take a more homeopathic approach to things, but I've also been very honest that there are things that Western medicine we absolutely need. Surgery is one of them. When you're having an appendectomy, when your appendix is about to burst, you got to get your ass to a surgeon because you're gonna,
Yeah.
if you don't
Yeah.
get that thing taken out.
Yeah. Whenever you break your arm, it needs to be set. I mean, like I will say, for example, in third grade, I broke my arm. My
Yeah.
parents did not take me to a doctor. My mom didn't know better. She was a Christian Scientist. My dad, not a Christian Scientist, should have advocated for medical treatment for me. He just went along with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was in pain. I was in excruciating pain for weeks. And I mean, am I able to use my arm? Yes, but I mean, like if you were to like meet me in person, and you wouldn't notice it immediately, but if I showed you like where I'm able to take my arm down to on one
Yeah.
side of my body and then on the other side of the body, you'd say, yeah, it doesn't go down quite as far. And like my arm should have been set. There was another time where my eardrum, I won't even tell you how I did it, but I popped my eardrum,
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't have hearing in my ear for probably about a year and a half.
Wow.
And it finally came back, but my mom was just convinced that, Christian Science treatment brought back my hearing. It's like, no, hearing can come back after a broken eardrum after about a year and a half or 2 years. So that was in kindergarten when that happened.
And so my question to these Christian Scientists is like, well, don't you believe that God gave people intelligence and insight to be able to be doctors to try to heal, and again, I want to make it very well aware. I know that there are overuse of, I get that. Like I'm very much into homeopathic, but there are times when you understand that you need medical intervention. I will tell you that when I broke my ankle in high school, and when I went and had the x-ray, it got some of my shin in the x-ray. And when the doctor was looking at it, he was like, "Oh, it looks like you have a scar on your shin where you broke your leg earlier." And I looked at my
Mhm.
mom and she looked at me and I was like, "No, I've never." And the doctor was like, "Oh, that happens a lot where little kids will break their legs. Parents don't know." And that leg, but my mom felt so terrible. Like driving home, she kept apologizing to me, but it was probably happened when I was like 2,
Mhm.
I don't remember it, but I can't. I've broken a few bones in my life, and I can't imagine like I mean, it's so unbelievably painful. You go into shock at first, but then once the shock wears off, the pain that is there, and we know through anthropology that we can see in archaeology that when we dig up these skeletons, we can tell when human history when lifespan started to extend longer was when they started setting bones, when they figured
Yes.
out how to set bones. And so it's super, super important. And yeah, that's I work with a girl, I've worked with a girl who's moved here to America from India, from Kerala, India. She owns an Ayurvedic shop here in Atlanta. I've done workshops with her before, and we laugh because in America people are not quick to do the homeopathic Ayurvedic route. But she was like, no, in India it's the opposite. People will come in literally having an appendicitis and asking us for mushrooms to help, and we're like, you need to go to the hospital. No mushrooms are going to help you. And it's finding that balance, but I can see how, especially everything that's happened like these last 5 years, like how people would be more attracted to a religion that's based more off of faith. But there has to
Mhm.
be, I'm not saying don't pray, of course. I mean, many doctors will tell you patients they have in like the emergency room that do have a faith tend to heal faster than those that don't for whatever reason. But God gives people intellect to be able to help, in situations like this. And so I was telling you off camera, Chris, I've studied so many different religions because religions fascinate me, and I've never really ventured into Christian Scientist. And if the audience wants us to do a deep dive, I'd love to have you come back on, Chris, after I've researched it as well, and go through the history if you want to of Christian Scientist. If
Yeah,
that's
that would be fine. I would do that. Yeah.
just to educate everybody. So, knowledge is power. All right. So, my next question is there a case that you've written about or researched that still keeps you up at night?
Oh, I think there's a few, but I mean, like the one that I can say off the top of my head that really bothers me is Leslie Sue Zaret.
Yeah.
And we did a podcast on her together.
Yep.
And mostly, I think what bothers me about it is she is obvious. It's obviously her, even though it's not listed under her name in Maury Terry's book. It describes what happened to her. He didn't know what her name was at the time. Apparently, a couple of women um, had gone to another woman and said that Berkowitz had witnessed a woman or was told that this had happened to her and that it
Yeah.
was a cult. And then it appears in the 1979 reexamination of the Son of Sam case, but it doesn't say her name. It just says that a woman named Janice was found in a schoolyard around August 75 when it was actually August 74, and that she was Jewish. And then, researching the case and also talking to people that knew her, as well as people that were close to the family that provided me with information on what happened to her. and who the main suspect. I find it really bothersome because the main suspect has almost the exact same profile as David Berkowitz. He was adopted. He was Jewish, but didn't like his Jewishness. He went around telling people that he was Greek. David Berkowitz didn't like his Jewishness either. He owned and he had an LSD problem. I mean, it's just like for like the profile. I mean, there are too many similarities between him and Berkowitz, and it makes I can't figure out what's going on with the case, because I even published recently. I believe that she's anagrammed into the first Son of Sam letter, and I published on it. And I've known this for a while. I figured it out a long time ago, but I did not publish on it.
Well, I'm going to tag that video down below because that is a very heartbreaking case.
Yes.
I mean, for any human to go through what she did, but a young girl like her, just the most brutal way to leave the earth.
Yeah.
And I've told you before, because I know you're in contact with people that were close to her. I have a friend who's a remote viewer, and so if you ever want me to get her to help in any way, she has helped with a lot of other missing people. She solved a person's case once, and so and I think that I can't imagine, with these cases with people. I mean, I don't have children, but I am an aunt. The horror of what people can do to young adults, young women especially, it's repulsive. And that was a hard case that you brought to the channel. And again, guys, I'm going to tag that down below. If you're new to this channel, we have to be very careful with some of the subject matters. I mean, I'm sure you guys and your smart people with the context, you probably understand what we're getting at with what happened to her. But if you look, the tag below will take you to the backup platform, where we can speak more freely. A lot of our shows go over there because of the case matter that we're talking about. There's a lot of darkness. And so I would really encourage people, if you're not familiar with her case, to get familiar with her case, because she was a human life. And I think sometimes just people like you, Chris, who bring light to these cases and talk about them, it gives their life purpose and meaning. They're not forgotten.
Yeah, and I mean the NYPD totally mishandled the case. I mean they lost evidence, they lost her clothes, and her yearbook was lent out for a working list. And let me explain what a working list is to people that don't understand it. It's whenever you take a yearbook or some other material and you create a potential list of names, and then you look at the names and you continue to do research and you determine, okay, if this person could actually be a suspect.
Right.
A working list and a suspect list are not the same thing.
Right.
Some people in the research community get confused about what a working list is. Maury Terry had working lists on people. A working list is not a suspect list. You know what I mean?
It seems like if you come across a crime, you're just going to write down every name you can associated with the person, knowing full well that most of these people had nothing. It's just to help give you. I get that, but
police use working lists all the time. FBI uses working lists. I mean, that was the reason why they asked for her yearbook, so they could see who she went to high school with.
Exactly.
And if any of these people might know anything. And they lost her yearbook and they couldn't get it back to the family member who lent it out. It's just like one thing after another. It's just,
it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Things are intentionally going missing.
It was stated that the FBI came in and evaluated, and that multiple people laid out her body. And there was nothing about the case that I don't find disturbing. And it kept me up for a long time. It's not as bad as it used to be, but her case really bothered me and kept me awake for a long time.
Well, rest in peace, Leslie. You got people still talking about you all these years later, trying to bring justice to your case. At Fusion Body Studio, we fuse spiritual awakening with physical training to unlock the strongest, clearest, most energized version of you. This isn't another workout program. This is a transformation system. Every class activates prana, your life force. Every movement ignites forska, your inner power. And you can feel results in your body and your energy within days. No more waiting for motivation. No more searching outside of yourself. Your body is the gateway. Your breath is the ignition. Your power is already inside of you. We just help you unleash it. Click the link below in the description box and join Fusion Body Studio today. Your awakening starts the moment you hit play. Oh, and don't forget to use discount code BRICE20, BRICE20 at checkout to get 20% off your first 6 months with us. And now back to the show. Now, Chris, have you ever uncovered something in your research that made you genuinely afraid for your safety?
I would say yes, but I can't really go into what that would be right now.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I know that feeling. I've been the same way with certain things. And you go into a topic thinking, what can be so bad? I'm just going to look into this. I'm going to talk about it on my show or on my blog. And the next thing you know, you're in deep and you're getting weird emails and weird threats. Yes. I absolutely get it. It's a warning for anybody who starts a YouTube channel. Or
well, I'll be very, very blunt too. Since you're familiar that I was doxxed, including my address and my phone number,
yep,
and my name. And I at this point, I'm not even going to bring up the person's name who did it. But my husband started getting text messages at 2:00 in the morning, and they're documented.
Yeah.
And phone calls and text messages in what looks like gang speak. And I'm not happy about it.
No, I've had to file police reports. I had a stalker that went to, it's terrifying when people, it's absolutely terrifying. And
there are repercussions for doxing people.
Absolutely. I take that, the first time I met you, Chris, I take doxing very seriously because of what's happened to me, like that empathy. And I live, for me, like if I didn't live in a big city, like my channel's Esoteric Atlanta, I live in Atlanta, but they're like me and 6 million other people live in Atlanta. So that's not really doxing myself. But even if someone lived in a small town, I would never give their town out because it's serious. And you don't think about these things when you first kind of go public with your stuff. You think, oh, this is fine. People are normal. This is just an interesting case. And then all of a sudden you're pulled into it just for talking about it and giving an opinion that people don't like. Well, but all of a sudden they take it personal, and it's crazy.
There's a reason why the federal government has placed doxing laws into effect, and they're vague. And they'll be more defined over the future with, lawsuits, because that's how our system works is, we're capitalistic and we don't particularly like hard laws until, there's case law to demonstrate that it needs to be handled this way and this way and this way. And sometimes things need to go through the courts in order for issues to be resolved.
In certain states already are moving into felonies for doxing in certain states. But I get that. Yeah, I was telling you, we're kind of unraveling another cult right now, a Cassiopean experiment. And Laura Knight, the leader of this alleged cult, likes to allegedly dox people and we've already said, if you dox us, we're going to file police reports because we take this seriously. And I've already had a case go through criminal court with somebody who did this to me. And so I take this very seriously. If someone accidentally doxed someone, that doesn't bother me because it was not intentional, and people usually feel really bad about that and will delete the video immediately. But when someone intentionally puts your private information out, there's only one reason that they're doing that. It's very
well, it gives them a sense of control and power. Like,
absolutely.
You don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do this to you, and it's because because they're being vindictive.
It's ownership over you.
Well, it says more about the person than it says about you.
Absolutely, absolutely. With that being said, Chris, this is going to be an interesting question. I cannot wait to hear your answer. Which institutions in America are more corrupt, in your opinion, than the public realizes? The police, the courts, or the media?
Oh, I think it's more visible with the police because you'll see cases of police misconduct
Yeah.
and especially excessive use of power, and then the media reports it and it gives a distorted image. I'm not saying that there isn't a problem with the police and that there isn't a corruption problem and that they don't protect themselves. Um, but at the same time, I don't think that it's a problem with every single police department. I
Right.
think that there are some police departments that have more of a problem than others. It ends up getting amplified through the media, and then we end up thinking that the police are a lot worse than they necessarily are.
Yeah.
So I would not say it's the police. I would say, like for the court system, I think it can be corrupt depending on the jurisdiction. Uh, more, in my opinion, it would be more likely the media because the media is able to spin information on behalf of politicians and big business
Yep.
and including their own agenda, and they're able to spread disinformation, and it spreads fast like a disease,
Yep.
and it's able to influence millions of minds, and it works as a form of, depending on how it's done, as you could argue it works as a form of mind control.
Propaganda. Yeah.
Yeah, propaganda. I mean, like with me, in my opinion, with Nazi Germany,
Yep.
one of the biggest offenders that just eats me is
Media.
their propaganda minister.
Yep.
I mean, he was really the brains behind regime, and if he would have been put in power, he would have been a very dangerous man.
Have you seen the new Netflix documentary,
Uh,
Caroline Fleck?
mm-mm.
The true story. And I know I have a lot of English people watching right now. We don't know who this person is in America. I know she's super famous in the UK. Caroline Flack, I think was her name. We watched the
Yes.
documentary. It was unbelievable. But Caroline Flack was, and this goes into the media, because I agree with you. I think the media is there's problems in all three, police, court, but the media is the big problem because they control the story. And
Yes.
this Caroline Flack chick, she apparently is this really famous, like, host presenter over in the UK on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And an incident happened with her boyfriend that got spun out of control by the media. The media
Mm-hmm.
turned it into something it wasn't, and she ended up, as we have to say here on YouTube, unaliving herself
Mm-hmm.
at 40. I would love for you, if you want to, if you watch that, it's on Netflix. It's like Caroline Flack, the true story, or the untold true story, or something. And it was the media who really messed it up and spun a story that wasn't true. And she lost her job. She dealt with all this stuff,
Yeah.
and she finally just took her own self out. And I hold the media responsible for that. We look at the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother did not have Munchausen by proxy. Gypsy Rose Blanchard had a microdeletion chromosome disorder. So why did the media, with incongruent with her defense attorneys, spin this story that got her only a 10-year prison sentence when she should have, according to Missouri law, gotten the ultimate penalty? It's crazy what the media will do. And now people are stressed because this woman is out of prison and she has a child now, allegedly. I think there's weirdness around that. And she's obviously, doctors have said that she shows signs of psychopathy. So when is she going to offend again? And so I am agree with you. I think the media is the problem with everything. It's everything.
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk about the courts for a second. I mean, I think the courts try to present themselves as being balanced and fair, and I do not believe our judicial system is balanced and fair. I just don't. Whenever you have somebody who's able to go to trial, like O.J. Simpson, and
Yep.
who has lots of money, and who is able to walk free of charges, and then you have somebody else who has less money based on socioeconomic standing and would have been sentenced to prison because they wouldn't have had the same options for legal counsel.
Right.
That's a problem. And then, of course, there's plea bargaining,
Yep.
which works in the favor of the judge, the defense, and the prosecution. But it does, and sometimes it works in the favor of the victim, but it does not work in favor of the defendant ever, ever. Yeah, it's less visible with the courts, but I think I don't know if I would call that corruption as much as just it seems like a social stratification
Yeah, like
problem
a
with
gentleman's club,
inequality. Yeah.
just a handshake. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Is there a case you think the official story is intentionally fabricated, not just mistaken?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of cases like that.
Same.
I mean, one that I can think of off the top of my head, I believe is Jonestown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts on. We should do a whole show on Jonestown. That's another group I've never touched here on Esoteric Atlanta, and of course everybody, that's the whole drink the Kool-Aid where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I kind of think is amusing. There's one podcaster who will remain unnamed, who seems to think that I have a thing for serial killers. And it's like, no, you don't know me very well. You're wrong. When I serial killers do interest me and their behavior. I will be honest. One of the first things what I wanted to do whenever I first left high school is I actually wanted to go into to get an undergraduate and to work for the FBI. I really wanted to be a profiler. My mom talked me out of it. She didn't think that it was going to be a safe profession.
Right.
But from the time I was young, I have always been interested in cults, and
Yeah.
I think what got me interested in it was being raised a Christian Scientist. I'm not saying that that they're a cult, but they are an outlier for what would be considered to be normalized religion in this country. But then I was exposed to Jonestown. I mean, my mom wouldn't stop watching everything with Jonestown, and I just find cults interesting. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons that drew me to the case is it's cult related.
That idea. Well, that's the same thing with the Son of Sam case. I mean, I think
Yes.
I agree that has been purposely.
Yes, that's my interest in the Son of Sam case is mostly from a psychological standpoint and from a cult perspective. I wouldn't call I don't know. I think it's kind of narrow-minded to just label what was going on as a cult, and it's too narrow. It's probably better defined as a group.
Yeah.
And that it was a criminal network, and that there was a cult aspect to it.
Yeah.
Because there are cult aspects to gangs as well, because they also use mind control and other types of cult-like measures to control the people.
They have a leader.
Yes.
The safety of the group over the individual. Yeah, truly. Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, I would recommend one book, and I don't know if you've ever read any of his books. Stephen Hassan, he was a Mooney.
Yep.
And he does a really good job of explaining mechanisms in cults, and also how it applies to cases such as child soldiering in other countries and gangs. And it makes it. His research, he's extremely intelligent. His research makes it more understandable.
We talk about the BITE model a lot here on my channel, which is great, guys. Behavior control, information control, thought control, emotional control. That's Stephen Hassan, his BITE model. I think that's one of the most brilliant templates to come out to look at any high control organization, to check and make sure, it check all those boxes, then you might be in a high control organization. Absolutely. Well, with these, which true crime case, if you believe there is one, Chris, do you think will ever be, in quotes, politically impossible to solve? Like, case that we'll never be able to solve because it will be politically impossible.
I would have to say Epstein.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I mean, I can't. Like the whole gaslighting that's going on, there's no list. What are you talking about?
There are too many influential business people and politicians involved for them. No, it's never going to be fully resolved. I mean, they might finally all get together and throw a couple people under the bus in almost like a sacrificial appeasement, saying,
Yeah.
well, maybe people will be happy if we just.
Give them these people.
Yeah, but I don't believe Epstein is ever going to be fully resolved.
I can agree
I
with you on
just
that,
don't.
sadly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the one systematic lie about criminal justice that you think the public is conditioned to believe?
I would say that it's fair and balanced.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. I mean, we tend to think that we live in a society that's more equal than others, and we just it's simply not true. Our system is socially stratified, just like all the other countries in the world. It's just not as visible as others, like is it like in India where they had a noticeable caste system.
I mean, look at like the Murdaugh situation that finally came to a head because they had gotten away with so much before that the
Mm-hmm.
antics just got higher and higher and higher till eventually you got multiple people, including the boating accidents, dead. And because they had just gotten the Murdaugh family had just gotten away. They were attorneys, so they were able to easily squirm their way through the system. But because of elite status, they could kind of control things. And so, yeah, I absolutely, money is power. Um, have you ever sympathized with a criminal in a way that shocked you?
Oh, several times because I have previously. I'm not volunteering for the Department of Corrections anymore as of recently because I just don't want any type of conflict based on what I'm doing, and also I don't want misinterpretations with social media because I've been doxxed,
Yeah.
and they have clear social media policies.
Yeah.
So could you repeat the question again?
Have you
I've
ever
lost my train of thought. Sorry.
sympathized
Yeah,
with a criminal in a way that shocked you?
yeah. I mean, I've sympathized with people that have been incarcerated that I came in contact with, but I've also, frankly, I've sympathized with some really bad, heinous serial killers because it's not just genetic. There are environmental factors to their behavior too, and the environment can turn genes off and on, and I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people don't realize that. One that I have to say I feel sympathy and I feel empathy for, even though I've never talked to this person, is Kemper. Are you familiar with who Kemper is?
That name sounds familiar.
Okay, he killed women out in California, and he's still serving in a medical institution. I mean, he's never going to get out. But would I ever? Do I think that he should be let out at any point? Absolutely no.
Right.
At the same point, in the same point, I also feel empathy and sympathy for him because his mother was a piece of work. She did not treat him well. It's kind of like, it's kind of like watching the movie Psycho and walking away and feeling sorry for Norman Bates.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that there's anybody that walks away from the movie Psycho and doesn't feel sorry for Norman Bates. I'll be honest. I mean, did you feel sorry for him when you watched it?
I think that's what Hitchcock did best is Hitchcock.
Yes.
He hit your horror in a more psychological way where you actually it wasn't just blood and guts. It was like there was psychology there and there was consideration and the fact that two things can be true and human beings
Yes.
complicated.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with people need to learn how to compartmentalize. And I mean, like you look at Kemper, he comes across as being a little awkward. He's obviously on the autism spectrum. People that are on the spectrum tend to have violent behavior more than others and tend to be deviant. But I think he has an IQ of about 155.
Wow.
And he's off the chart smart. but even his mother just made him feel like he was just like nothing.
Right.
And that he was incapable of getting a date with a woman. Did he manifest symptoms from the time that he was a child? Yes. At the same time, his mother was not a nice person, and she did. I'm not saying that she caused his behavior. He's responsible for his own behavior. What I'm saying is she didn't help.
It didn't just pop out of nowhere.
No, a behavior like that doesn't occur in a vacuum. And I mean, I'm not the only person, I believe, to feel this way about Edmund Kemper. Like John Douglas with the FBI did a lot of interviews with Kemper, and John Douglas really liked him. And if you read John Douglas's books, you'll say, okay, he liked Kemper and he was fascinated with Kemper, and that he has flat out said that he believes that there are environmental factors with that kind of with those types of offenders, and he's also said that he believes that his mother contributed to the behavior. So it's not like I'm some type of anomaly, and
yeah,
you know what I mean? But
yeah,
I know that sympathizing and empathizing with Kemper would probably bother some people, but I really,
it doesn't take away the fact that the victims, like, you recognize, like, I'm that way with Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, two things can be true. I have
yes,
for Dahmer, even though he did terrible, horrible things and should have never ever been let. I mean, obviously he lost his life in prison, but should never been let out. He definitely needed to be under lock and key. But I can empathize with the little boy. David Berkowitz too. I
yes.
have incredible empathy for him, even though he's not. I don't think, in my opinion, that David Berkowitz does not fit the profile of a serial killer.
Oh, I have to agree with you there. I mean, if you're looking at, it's like the people that are making podcasts and like, raw, making loud noises, raw, he's so terrible. I just want to say, okay, maybe you need to do some comparisons with serial killers in United States history.
Yeah.
If you take a Likert scale from like a 1 to 10, David Berkowitz, I wouldn't even really classify him that much as a serial killer. I'd place him like a 1. And there are other people that I would place high on the scale, like a 10, like Gary Ridgway or Ted Bundy,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yeah.
people that are just, you feel sympathy and empathy for them, but you know that they can't be rehabilitated and they should never be let out.
I think Berkowitz is rehabilitated.
Yeah, he's rehabilitated.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference. It's like, no, if some people just need to get out more.
Yeah, and it's just common looking at like serial killers. There's like a fact they like fixate on their victims. They take there's all these things where Berkowitz was following commands. That's my opinion. He was following commands. He wasn't, obviously he needs to pay for his crimes, but I don't think he would have done this if it wasn't for the group he was hanging out with in Undermeyer Park. I think I don't think
that. I don't know if I agree with you on.
Oh, really? You think
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he had challenges from the time that he was a child, and he was attracted to it, and I think he's extremely smart.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily say he would not have behaved that way if he hadn't gotten involved with these people. He might have just gotten involved with somebody else, or he might have done something by himself that was not as extreme. I mean, he was lighting fires from the time he was a child. He was
acting out in a different way than serial.
Yes.
There's a different issue going on with him. I mean, yeah, he just does not fit the textbook of what we see with
no. I agree with you there.
Ted Bundy's or the
I 100% agree with you there. All the same. He did have a tendency for deviant behavior from the time he was a child, and there's a lot of different environmental factors and genetic reasons for it. But for somebody like David Berkowitz, I believe he's able to be rehabilitated.
I mean, honestly,
versus these other people. That's my own personal opinion.
I know he won't get let out, and I'm not saying that he should. That's the court's decision, society's decision. But if they say if or say they release David today, I don't think he would
Mhm.
be a harm to humanity.
I don't either.
I don't.
I think his biggest concern would be people if he was let out, people overreacting and saying, "Oh, I can't believe that they let him out," and
Right.
deciding to take matters into their own hands and being vigilantes whenever it's not their decision, it's the criminal justice
Absolutely.
decision and the parole board's decision. Whenever I can understand where victims are coming from, but at the same time, whenever you prosecute a criminal from that point forward, it's taken over by the states, and you have to look at society as a whole and the cost benefits of releasing a person, whether and keeping them incarcerated. And if a person is rehabilitated and we're spending, $35,000 to $50,000 a year just to house a person, we might want to reconsider our current correctional system, and
Absolutely.
if it's functional.
I
I
think the
mean,
only person.
you can't just keep a person locked up because the person makes you feel uncomfortable. If the person's rehabilitated, that's not how the system is supposed to work.
And I think if he were to be released, he would only really be danger to himself. And I say that because can you imagine being locked up in the late 70s and then stepping out in 2025 or 2026? Like the world is so different now. And
I agree.
I think
That's
that,
why he would need stable housing.
right.
He would need somebody that was able to make sure he was able to function
Yeah.
correctly.
I mean, it would be wild for him. Well, Chris, is there a moment when your academic training failed you and your intuition took over instead?
Yeah, every day. I don't even know how to give a clear example of that. Can you think of any examples that you have?
I mean, I've had it happen so many times. I think about that meme of that little kid who's sitting in like the car seat. He's just going, a bullshit, a bullshit, a bullshit. And I mean, I see that in my own research when I'm connecting the dots, even in historical cases, where I remember when I was doing the Borgias, and they were talking about how in the late 1800s they allowed these academics in to look at these archives, and that's how they found out about this banquet of chestnuts is what it's called, where Rodrigo Borgia, who was a pope, was like having basically the part. I have to be careful what I say. A party of hedonism. Um,
Mhm.
and there was allegedly in these archives where siblings were doing the hokey pokey, and a lot of academics have since come in and said no, that couldn't have been. And my looking at what we're seeing, I'm like, okay, I can see where the academics are saying this, but my gut is telling me from other stories we've heard of the Borgias that this absolutely happened. Like this absolutely happened. And so that's just my big one. I mean, it happens with a lot of cases, but that's a big one where I was like, no, these researchers are nerds who don't have any common sense, and no, this absolutely happened.
I
Um,
mean, I would have to say that, applying the occult to crimes is not particular. You don't find that in academia at all, even though it probably should have an appearance here and there.
yeah, absolutely. I think we need to. We said like I said, we said in another episode that the police need to be trained in this to understand what they're
Yeah.
looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you'll find in academia where they'll say, okay, well, incarcerated people tend to practice occultism more than the general population, and it is correlated with higher crime. But then you don't see other aspects of it, like, okay, well, was it tied into any of these crimes? Did so and so use astrology to chart out their crimes? Like one example I can think of off the top of my head is Gary Evans. He was a really prolific burglar, and he was astrologically charting out his burglaries.
Oh wow,
They found astrology books in his at his residence.
interesting.
Yeah, Yeah, and I mean you'll find things like that in books, but you don't find it in academic literature at all.
Yeah, I've noticed that there, especially with psychology, there's some certain therapists I watch online, and the really good ones are the ones where I think they've applied practical logic to their work versus just going through
Uh,
textbook.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's it's a shame because there's so much more to the world than what's just written down in academia. And absolutely. Well, this is kind of this might be a loaded question because I think I know the answer to this next question, but I have
Uh-oh. Okay.
like, what's the most unethical thing you've witnessed in the true crime or online investigation community?
Oh, there's so much.
We could do a whole
There's
podcast just on that.
there's so much. I'd have to really think about that. I mean, one thing I can think off the top of my head that we've covered in a previous podcast is I think the violation of that non-disclosure agreement
Yeah,
in the case of Berkowitz and it not being enforced, and people taking it and passing it around the documents without authorization and
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the problem too is, and this has bugged me since I've started this, is like I have my opinions on the case, I have my empathy in the case, but I'm not, as far as I wasn't there, especially speaking of Son of Sam, like I wasn't even born yet when this happened. So it's not really personal to me. I can feel personal feelings, but so many people, I think, inject themselves into these true crime cases that they feel personally attacked when their opinion isn't validated. And it opens up this whole slew of issues that should not be here. And so, guys, there's just a whole lot there. Well, in your opinion, who's the most overhyped? Let me rephrase that. Who is the most overhyped criminal case in history, and who is the most underreported criminal case in history?
that's a good question.
There's so many underreported ones, aren't there?
Underreported. Yeah, I don't know. You go first. You tell me what you think, and I'll think about this for a
Well, not
second.
to not to sound like, you know, the woke mob, but I do agree with the woke mob on this one. Um, Minority cases, especially with
Okay.
women. I feel like they don't talk about Black women or Asian women or
Yeah.
Native women like they should. It's always the white girl that gets, and the white girl should also be. I mean, I'm not saying don't advertise the white girl too. Like every woman or child or man that is horrifically has their life ended horrifically should be talked about publicly. It shouldn't just be one group.
Hmm.
What
I don't
about
know. Like for crimes. I think that there are some war crimes that have been underrepresented. I can't think of some off the top of my head. Um,
I'm
maybe maybe I there and this is hard. There's some like Eastern Europe that I would say haven't been publicized as well as they should be, and while there are others, and I wouldn't call them that have been overly publicized.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say. I think all should be publicized. Uh, but for crimes, the over publicizing, that's hard.
yeah.
Maybe something like Lizzie Borden. I
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think? Do you think she did it or did she not do it?
I don't know enough about her, but I always hear people talking about Lizzie Borden, and I just don't care about Lizzie Borden.
Yeah, I think yeah, I don't know either if she did it or not. And you're right too. I'm about to actually just got the book in the mail, The Stoning of Soraya M. I think there's a lot of with Sharia law. There's a lot of young girls that are stoned because They were basically, and they get punished for it. There's a lot that goes on in the world. We're very, even though our system is corrupt here, we're also lucky in a lot of ways too. So I hear you on that. Well, one last question, Chris. This has been so fun. Do you believe any famous case was purposely misreported by mainstream media?
Yes, I do. I think that there are a lot of cases that have been purposely misreported by mainstream media.
Me too.
I think that there's almost too many of them.
I feel like every case at this point needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah, I mean JFK, RFK, I mean Jonestown. I think that there are a lot that just haven't been adequately represented through the media.
The media is selling you a story, and we know that reporters don't even research anymore. They just get handed a script in the morning, and that's what they tell you. And it's Project Mockingbird. And so absolutely, I mean, again, I'm going to encourage you guys to go and watch, especially the Americans, because I know this person is not famous here in America, or was not famous, Caroline Flack. Go and watch that Netflix documentary. It'll piss you off because you see how the media cost this girl her life.
I'll also go as far to say that I think the MK Ultra experiments were a crime, and I think that they've been underreported. Because anytime you're testing on human subjects and you technically don't have their informed consent, there's a problem.
I think, Chris, too, I think that some of this is still going on. That's my conspiracy. I think they've gotten more refined now. And yeah, so, well, I've actually got another call in like 10 minutes. So this has been so fun, Chris. Will you come back and maybe do this again one day where we just ask you questions?
Sure, why not?
It's fun. And I'm going to ask my audience to ask questions below that you have for Chris. And if you guys want us to do an episode doing a deep dive into Christian Scientist and like the background of this belief system, let me know, because now I'm fascinated, because I love studying religion, and this is one religion I don't know that much about. And so I would love to look into it myself and then talk about it with Chris, who grew up in this world.
Yeah, I'll tell you something super amusing about the Christian Science Church before we take off. Speaking of conspiracy theories, I think we brought up JFK earlier. John F. Kennedy Jr.'s parents used to meet on the steps of the Christian Science Church because nobody would find them there. It's a joke within the Christian Science Church. Literally, everybody talks about it. Apparently, that they were dating. Their parents didn't want them dating, so they had to sneak off for dates. And whenever they would sneak off, they would meet on the steps of the Christian Science Church, and of course, Christian Scientists recognized them. And apparently, even the Kennedys crack jokes about it.
That is so funny. Well, I was telling you, we have a Christian Scientist or Science Church down the street from where I live here in Atlanta. And there's never anybody in it. I never see anybody come. We walk by it all the time with our dog, and there's like a little shop beside it. And never see anybody there, but it's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So, well, thank you so much, Chris. You guys, I'm going to put all of Chris's information down in the description box below. I've got a list here of all the cases that we referred to, that we spoke about. I'm going to link those down below as well, so you can watch those videos if you haven't already. But as always, please check out Chris's blog. Make sure to follow her. And I'm excited to see. I think your new career is just beginning, Chris. I think you're gonna find a whole second wind of covering these cases.
Well, we'll see. I have a lot on my plate in the next year. I'm probably not going to be publishing quite as much in the next year and a half, because I have other things that I have to focus on big time.
Right.
But yeah, I will keep my blogs up.
And they're fascinating. They're fascinating. So, well, thank you so much, everybody. We hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.